Welcome to that one show with Brian Combs. Joining me today is Kentucky-based singer-songwriter Grayson Jenkins. Thank you so much for taking the time to join the show, Grayson. How are you?
I'm doing well. I appreciate you having me.
So we've got you on the show mainly to discuss your new album, Country Parables. I think it's your fourth studio album, by my
Yeah,
count.
yeah, fourth full length. Yeah.
I really enjoy this album, man. I think it's some of your greatest songwriting to date. I've listened to it several times. It's been out a few weeks now, and I need to try to get me one of those vinyls if there's any left.
Yeah, there's a few left. I appreciate the kind words about it. I'm glad to have it out there now.
So let's talk about uh, before we get into the new album, kind of your career up until this point. Uh, I I think I first came upon you. I think it was your second album called Hand Me Down Tunes, maybe, or Hand Me
Yeah.
Downs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played some of that on my old radio show years ago on WJSN in Jackson, Kentucky.
It's awesome. Yeah, man.
And I've kind of been a fan of you since. I actually interviewed you at the first Railbird Festival. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that for sure. Back there in that tent, it was that day. It was so hot.
That's
Yeah.
one of the hottest days of my life, man. And I love bourbon, particularly Four Roses, and they had a tent set up to where I could go and sample anything I wanted. I couldn't even bring myself to do it. I was so hot.
Oh man. Yeah, I remember stealing a few waters from your all's media tent
Yeah,
back.
yeah.
Hot.
It was miserable that day.
Yeah.
Uh, so how long have you been doing the music thing, and what made you decide to try to do it, and put all your resources in it and do it as a career?
Man, I was kind of a latecomer. I'm 34 now, and I played my first gig when I was about 22. So I was kind of a latecomer from that standpoint. I didn't really start playing that much until I was in college. And yeah, just was always kind of fascinated with music growing up, but didn't have a lot of access to people doing it, at like a working class level. And so it was when I was in college that I saw Sunday Best. I feel like there's a multitude of people in the Kentucky scene that can trace it back to Sunday Best and early Childers days. But yeah, I remember going to watch them for free, and then it was a $5 cover, and then it was a $10 cover, $25 cover, and then you couldn't get in. They were on CMT. And so it was like that was the first time I really saw somebody work from a grassroots level up to a national touring act. And so anyway, along that same time, I started writing songs and I started getting out and playing them. And all the while, I graduated from the University of Kentucky and I worked a job there in admissions. And then I worked for the College of Business for about 4 years total and was moonlighting playing music. And it just got to be, those years were great, but they're kind of a blur because every free moment I had, I was sinking into music. I'd get off work on Thursday, I'd play in town at Henry Clay's Public House. I'd get off work Friday, drive to Bowling Green and play. And then Saturday, I'd pick up, a tailgate gig. I would take whatever gig I could. Um, but then that ultimately led to me being able to support myself through the music. And so in 2017, I quit my job and sunk full time into music. And since then, it's been school of hard knocks is a term that gets tossed around a lot, but I've learned, it's been a crash course in the music industry for the past 8 years. And so now I feel a little more settled in it. It always changes, but yeah, it's been a winding journey, but it's led me all kind of here with this album.
Um, before one more question about some of your past albums before uh, we get into the new one. You've got a song about my hometown of Jackson on the previous album from a few years
Yeah,
back called Turning Tides. And I was surprised that you told me in our previous conversation at Railbird that you wrote that without actually having been here before.
I did. Yeah. Yeah. Ryan Allen, Breathitt County's own,
Right.
was playing in my band at the time, and we've co-written songs and stuff together. But I distinctly remember that. That's a good segue because I distinctly remember Jackson was the first song I wrote after I quit my job. A buddy invited me to his lake house, and I didn't have to work that Monday for the first time ever, and was like, so I remember it was a Sunday night, and I had a ukulele of all things in my hands, and I wrote that song, just thinking about. Ryan and I passing time in the van and stuff would talk about home and his family property and stuff. And so it was kind of a good exercise in songwriting of like writing about somebody else's hometown. And then since then, I've gotten to go several times and appreciate it for a beautiful place that it is.
Uh, let's get on into the new album. It's called "Calling Out Your Name." I think it's been out for what, 2, 3 weeks now. Uh,
Country Parables, yeah. Calling Out Your Name is ninth track, I guess, on
that
that.
that's my bad, man.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
That I've actually made myself some cliff notes because I wanted to particularly talk about that track
Yeah,
because it
no,
was my
you're good.
favorite one on there. But uh, before we get into that actual song, what was the process behind writing and recording this album? How long has it been in gestation from like point A to point B, in which it was released a couple weeks back?
Well, I wrote the first song in 2016 while I was working at
Wow.
UW. Yeah, Country Parables, the title track was written then, and that to say, I didn't stew on this album for 10 years, but I I got to tour a lot with Tony Bradshaw, who co-produced the record, and I've toured with him a lot in 2023 and 2024. And towards the end of 2023, I was able to bring him on to co-produce the record, and so we started recording in August 2023. Um, that said, there were a couple months of lead time, and so that's where I dug up older songs like Country Parables. I dug up Calling Out Your Name, Good Times Go. Those were all songs that had been written pre-pandemic. The rest of the songs, I think, had all were all written in the year, kind of as a follow-up to Turning Tides. But it was very much I pulled, from the archives to kind of build this story of, talking about rural life, talking about the people in rural communities, and just kind of my experience in those places and those unique dynamics of the people in those spaces. So it wasn't a 10-year process. I would say all told, it was about a 2-year, kind of process putting it together.
You've had a couple of those songs that predated some of your previous albums too, but never just found their way on those.
Yeah, that's a fun process for me with records is like digging up old songs and rewriting them a little bit. Like Country Parables, there are probably three or four lines that from 2016 to, when we recorded in 2023, a few lines that changed. Um, Same with Calling Out Your Name, same with Good Times Go. It's a fun exercise for me to put them away for a little bit, for a long time, almost forget about them, and then bring them out, and it's like playing with a new toy or something.
I'm always fascinated by when an artist puts a new album out, not just on the songs that they choose to put on it, but the sequence. Is that something that you put much thought in on how to sequence the songs from opening track to closing track?
Oh yeah, yeah, probably too much. I'm real prone to overthinking. And so yeah, there's about 40 versions of Country Parables, different orders. I'm not a mathematician, but whatever order you could think of, I was trying to come up with, but I like where it's at now, but I'm sure in a year or two I'll have something different in mind that I wish I would have done.
I guess I'm showing my age by saying this, but when I first listened to a new album, I always would just hit play and listen to it from beginning to end. And a lot of times in this day and age, that's still digitally if I haven't got yet a physical copy of it, be it CD or vinyl, which is my preference, how I prefer to listen to music. But I'm guessing with the onset of streaming and how that's most people consume their music now, do you think it's a lot more important to have a quote unquote banger of a first song so they'll keep listening past that song, or is that something you even think about?
It is something to think about. Yeah, I think there's different models. And two, you look at some of the older records, vinyl records from, the 60s, 70s, whatever decade you want to pick out pre-streaming, it's like they put their heavy hitters on the front side because they wanted you to, because they knew the tendency to not flip the record or, so it's like even then, it's like you look at some of these, I'm trying to think of a good example, but it's like the title track of the record was the first song, so it's like, um, I think that's always existed to an extent where you want to make a good impression with the first song. For me, I like a little bit of a slow build, so it's like Turning Tides. It kind of just plods along, and then the second song is, a big hard heart to hold. But um,
Which is a
yeah.
really good song, by the way.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah.
I
But
think,
yeah,
did you release that as a single before the album?
I did, yeah, that
That's what I
came out.
thought. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we did a bunch of singles for this. That's something that, I'm an album guy too. And so if I had my preference, I would just drop an album and, hope that people listen and pick their favorite track. But just in the world we're in, you kind of have to, uh, let the songs have their time in the daylight or in the spotlight. And so that's kind of fun too, where each song ends up getting to have its own identity, and own content around it and stuff. It can be tiresome, but it's fun too to give them their time out in the daylight.
Uh, who did the artwork for this album? Because I think it's particularly good.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, the artwork was done about a year before the album was. It was definitely a different process for me. I had a very specific type of illustration that I wanted. It's called stipple ink work. I guess is the kind. But I found an artist from the UK named Sam Hubbard, who I found on Instagram. I was just searching. I found out I knew what kind of style of illustration I wanted. I've searched that hashtag. I found him, connected with him, and he knocked it out so quick that again, I had the artwork done well in advance of the record. And then Jeremy Fetzer out of Nashville put the whole packaging together, so the backgrounds and fonts and everything that kind of tied it together.
So let's circle back to something you said a moment ago, in which this album is called Country Parables. Is kind of about representing people from rural areas. Did you grow up in a small town?
I did, yeah. I grew up in Greenville, Kentucky. I think the population now is about 4,000. It was a little bit greater when I was there. I think it was 6 to 7. But yeah, high school graduating class of about 140. So smaller rural town, not terribly different from Breathitt down there.
Yeah, just a tad bit bigger. I think we have about 2,500 folks, but 4,000
Okay.
is no metropolitan area by
No.
any stretch.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you went to the University of Kentucky, and I just have to point, I pointed this out before we started recording, but for the folks watching on YouTube and not listening on Spotify or Apple, you've got an awesome University of Kentucky hat on.
Oh,
And
thanks. It's pretty
uh,
dirty, so hopefully the camera quality's not too great on my end. Yeah, needs a good wash.
so I'm guessing you probably follow basketball and football at UK.
Yeah, not as much as I used to. Music takes up a lot of those parts of my headspace. But yeah, I mean, I still love watching, especially UK basketball, and then football. I've not been to a game in a long time. I like to watch them when I can. But yeah, when I was in college, I mean, I have Ziploc bags full of ticket stubs to where my freshman year, 2000, fall of '09 was Coach Cal's first year, and so
Wow. Yeah.
um,
John
man,
Law, Margaret's
yeah.
cousins, and all that crew.
Yeah.
So, what would you do if UK called and asked you to sing the national anthem before a game?
Uh, I would say yes, and then I would spend whatever amount of time between the call and it happening practicing and being nervous as hell.
Understandable.
I've,
Understandable.
I've done that gig a couple times I did it at a rodeo twice at Alltech Arena, and then I did an EKU baseball game, and both times it's like yeah, that's a tough gig. I always feel bad for the people on national TV that, kind of botch it because it's a tough song.
Yeah, and this day and age, that's always going to live on
Yeah.
forever and
Actually,
ever.
I might say no now that we're talking through it.
So, I mentioned this earlier, calling out your name. It's actually featuring, and I'm hoping I pronounce her name right. Is it Madeline Bayer?
Buyer.
Bayer,
Yeah.
okay.
Uh-huh.
So, did you write that as a song that was going to feature a female vocalist as a duet, or was that something that come on later in the process? And if so, did you have her in mind from the beginning?
No and no. I didn't write it with a duet in mind. That's an older song. We actually have a version of it from the Turning Tides session that ended up not making the album. Um, but then, yeah, I've always liked that song. I wrote it up in Harrison County on the Licking River at a buddy's place. But anyway, I brought it out for this album. I like the version we got, but then yeah, throughout the process of trying to finish up the album, I really wanted, particularly like the oohs and ahs that you hear on there, and like just kind of like a siren song, almost. Um, and so Madeline is somebody that I met through kind of the Lexington music community. She lives in Nashville now, but she just has a gorgeous voice and is like very technically proficient. So she did all the vocal parts, backing vocal parts that are stacked and layered. So yeah, it came on later, but I'm fascinated by her voice, and she's got some great solo work out there too that I'm a big fan of.
This was my first exposure to her, and I definitely had to look her up to see if she had some stuff out. Like you said, she's got some good stuff. If anybody wants to just, however you, whether you do Spotify or iTunes or whatever, she's on there. So I very much encourage folks to look her up and check out some of her solo stuff. She's got a great voice and a very, very unique vocalist.
Yeah, it's really captivating for me. So yeah, I
You
was
mentioned the siren song. The first thing that came to my mind was the scene in "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou," where they're
yes.
down by the river and the three ladies pretty much just hypnotize them.
Oh yeah, I mean that's definitely where my mind goes too with the siren. So
Yeah. So, do you enjoy like writing and recording music, or just getting out and playing it for folks live? What do you prefer, or is it both kind of equal?
uh I think I wouldn't want to do either one of them all the time. I each has their purpose, and the recording stuff it just ends up kind of consuming me from a standpoint of it's really in a good way to where you kind of get immersed in this experience of recording and finishing up an album or what have you. But um and then the live performances I love, but the older I get, definitely the there's a lot of work that goes into putting on a live show, of just the travel, the booking, the coordination, the working with a band. Um, so there's a lot of little moving parts. Now the time on stage, if I could just pop out of a hat and show up on stage and play the songs, then I would do that pretty much every day. But there are a lot of logistical challenges that go with that I think make it something that I don't want to do all the time.
And you do have some dates on the books over the next few weeks in helping promote this album, correct?
Yeah, we got some dates upcoming around Kentucky and Tennessee and North Carolina, and then have some other shows announcing soon as well. So we'll be adding a handful more this year, and then looking forward to a big year next year too.
What's some of your favorite venues that you've played?
Yeah,
Maybe in Lexington and maybe one outside of
yeah.
Kentucky.
The Burl, I mean, I think has just been such a formative place for everybody there.
Yeah.
You know, they allow me anymore to curate different events there too. Like I put on a John Prine tribute there annually, and then our Bolo Mules '90s country tribute, and then different one-off shows and things. So they're down to play ball, and I think that's really cool, and it's brought so much community to the area. Also in Kentucky, I would mention Southgate House in Newport. That's a really special venue. Um,
Yeah. For those not familiar with that one, it's actually in a old church, and just the ambience and the acoustics in there are awesome. And the Borough is also what a unique venue. I think it's an old train depot, right?
it is, yeah.
Yeah.
I played there back in 2016 or 17, the first year they were open, and yeah, it was just bare bones. Yeah, so it's been cool being around that place, pre-green room, pre-arcade, pre-brewery, all that stuff, pre-outdoor stage, and so it's cool what they've built it into. Um, and then outside of Kentucky, man, there's a lot of good ones. From a solo performance aspect, Eddie's Attic is a pretty
Oh,
special
in
place.
Georgia. Yeah.
Yeah, listening room. You can hear a pin drop. That's a good one. And then, uh, man, there's a lot of good ones. I got to play. I don't get to play a lot of real big rooms, but I got to open up for Vincent L. Emerson at the Aladdin Theater in Portland this past spring, and that was my first time playing like a real theater venue, sold out 600 people, and I was like, man, I like that vibe too. So it was a pretty cool room to play.
What's one venue that you would love to play that you haven't got to yet? I mean, obvious, everybody's going to say the Ryman probably, but
Yeah,
outside of that one, maybe.
yeah. I mean, Ryman Red Rocks are on a
Oh,
lot.
Red Rocks would be awesome.
Yeah, that's on a lot of people's list. Oh man. Let's see. There's like the Fox Theater in Atlanta, and then there's like a Fox Theater in St. Louis that I've never even been inside of them, but just the views I've seen. And then there's another real pretty theater down in Knoxville. Is that Bijou? Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but Bijou. But anyway, it looks awesome too. So I think the theaters are would be cool spaces to step into.
So you mentioned that you did a 90s tribute at the Borough called the Bolo Mules. Was you a big fan of 90s country growing up?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, by choice or not, it was just around. It was like uh,
Right.
it was either a tape cassette of like Merle Haggard, Waylon Jennings, stuff like that, or it was 90s country on the radio. Um, And so, yeah, I love those songs. I love the succinct storytelling. As a songwriter, have chased stories, but also you got to make it compelling and concise. And it's like, man, you can listen to songs like "Don't Take the Girl" or um, you know, what's the Queen of My Double Wide Trailer? It's like there's all these different, like, very stories with a lot of depth that they cover in 3.5 minutes,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
yeah.
They tell like a movie length story in, 2.5, 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes. It's
It's
crazy.
great. It really is, man. And so it's a blast doing that tribute. And then, yeah, I think, the members that are in it, we're all, influenced by it. And it's cool to get out there and get to play those songs.
Um, were you fans of other genres outside of country, or was that pretty much what you listened to?
There's a lot of country. At a relatively young age, started getting into, I liked the folk rock, I guess. People like Jim Croce, I was pretty
Hmm.
onto early on. And then you got the Eagles. Um, so 70s. I've always been drawn to the 70s. I think just musically. So 90s country, and then 70s rock and folk.
I've always been of the opinion that Jim Croce's song "Operator" is one of the greatest songs ever.
Oh man, it's phenomenal. Yeah. Speaking of Ryan Allen, he does a good cover of that in box number 10 too.
Oh man, I haven't got to hear him do that. I got him to see him in Magnolia Boulevard on July 4th. They played the headline show here in Jackson. So
Oh,
that was
nice.
great to get to see them again. Uh, is when he played with you, did he play keys or
No, I mean he has played keys with me. He sits in on the Prime tribute, but he played guitar. So like my album Cityscapes and Countrysides, that was he did I think all the guitar work on that, electric guitar, and so yeah, it was probably from 2014 through 2017 ish. He was to 2018. He was playing in the band.
who are you taking out with you on the road for these shows that we just talked about coming up as far as
Yeah.
band members and what they play? Do you want to mention them real quick?
For sure, yeah. I've got Tyler Young on bass, guitar, and backing vocals. He's the longest tenured member of my band. Been playing with him since 2016, so almost coming up on a decade. And then drums is kind of I call on a few different people. Aaron Smith from Kentucky plays with me a lot, but this run will be Lawrence Nimmons out of Nashville. He's been a long time bud and has played with me several times before. And then Thomas Albert will be on pedal steel, and he's up in Moorhead and teaches at the Kentucky Center for Traditional Music. But yeah, we'll have a four-piece out for these shows, and then might have some special guests, as we're playing closer to home in Lexington to bring on some other people.
You got Lexington Day on the books? If so, I'm gonna try my best to make it to that one.
Yeah, man, this is the second year that I'm doing what's called the FOMO Family Fun Day. So I have a song called Fear of Missing Out. And so we last year did, and the FOMO family is kind of my quasi fan club. And so we started last year at Boondogs in Lexington, a great outdoor space, restaurant and stuff. We did a little mini day festival, and we're going to do that again on August 31st. There in Lexington, FOMO Family Fun Day at Boondogs, and so Emily Jamerson's going to open up that show. and then I'll have my band out there.
I guess that's over Labor Day weekend. So it'd
It's
be a good time
Sunday,
to come
it's
out
Sunday,
and
Saturday.
fantastic. I'll try my best to make that one, man.
That'd be great.
Um, so when you write a song, you mentioned it, earlier that you wrote that one on the lake and just picked up a ukulele. Do you, does the music or the lyrics tend to come first for you?
Um, It's changed, and it still changes. I think early on it was almost always lyrics because I was still getting into playing music. Now it's a lot more common for me to just sit around with a guitar and noodle around, and then ideas and melodies come about that way. Um, but still, sometimes I'd say it's, probably 50-50 now, but I'll still have those moments when I'm driving or walking around and have a song idea and just start writing lyrics down. But um, yeah, I think a lot of times now it comes from just sitting down at a piano, sitting down with a guitar or whatever, and just plucking out new melodies.
Uh, do you listen to much new music, or are you consumed with yourself that you don't really want to branch out and listen to what other folks is doing? Because I mean, I understand that's pretty much a full-time job now for you. So, like for taking me for example, I help people with financial aid and stuff all day long. And if somebody just even if they're a family friend say, "Hey, can you help us with this?" I'm like,
Yeah.
I've just done that for 8 hours."
Yeah. No, it can be hard. Yeah, I know exactly the feeling. So I definitely listen to less music now than I did 10 years ago before I started doing this full time because it is taxing. Your ears only have so much uh, time they can spend. But anyway, I still listen to some. There are people that I really admire their work, and like James McMurtry, Jason Isbell, Sturgill, um, those people. Um, I revere pretty highly, and so if they have something new coming out, I'll jump on and listen to their new record. And then there's new stuff that catches me too, new artists, and blanking on some of those right now. But um, yeah, and during a record cycle, which I'm just finishing up, yeah, there's not a lot of extra bandwidth, in my brain to think about other music, and I don't know that I guess it's good too to not be heavily influenced by what everybody else is doing. At some point you got to just kind of chart your own path and figure out what sounds good to you.
So have you had a particular gig like as soon as the band got done and walked off the stage, you just knew, damn, that was one of the best. That was a good gig.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, there are definitely those moments. Those are real fun. Yeah, to celebrate with your band, especially it doesn't hit as hard when you're solo and you have a real good show and you come off stage and you're just by yourself. But yeah, I remember playing Railbird that year that you talked about. I mean, we were early on Sunday, but I still remember like we just had a really good set. We had been playing together all summer and, had the crowd fired up even as early as it was. And then, yeah, I remember that Aladdin Theater in Portland. I remember was a real good gig for us and coming off stage and being fired up. And, a lot of the Burl shows have been like that and where we have kind of our hometown people there. And yeah, it's a special feeling to feed off that energy.
We talked a few moments ago about sequencing songs on an album. How much time and thought do you put in when you make out a set list before playing a gig on like, okay, what should we start with? How are we going to come out of the gate hot? Are we going you mentioned that some of your albums you like to kind of build a little bit before you really get into the meat potatoes, maybe. Do you do the same thing when making out a set list for a show?
Uh, it depends. I do like to spend some good time and thought on, set list for particular gigs, and it changes. So it's like if we're playing closer to home, we're more likely to mix it up more because people have seen us more. If we're out on the road in a new market or something, I think it's important for people to give people the best uh, taste test of, different stuff that you do. And so all that goes into consideration. That said, I think just from a vibe standpoint, that flow is very important to me. And so it's like, okay, this song's out of key of G. I want to make sure, I don't want to just stop in between every song. And so it's like we'll play two songs out of the same key. Um, this one, we played three rockers. We need to tone it down here with a solo acoustic moment. So yeah, I like to kind of create this ebb and flow with just the vibe and thinking about uh, people out. You know, I've been there out at a concert drinking beer, need to go to the bathroom sometime, you need to go smoke a cigarette. You're kind of dancing with all those different dynamics.
Uh, do you ever sprinkle in a cover here and there, or you pretty much play all originals when you do a live show?
No, I'll sprinkle in covers. Yeah, this the past couple years we've been covering Don Williams. I cover
Mm.
Prime. Yeah, I cover Prime at most shows. Bruce Springsteen some. Um, so yeah, we'll add in a cover pretty much every show. If it's an opening slot or something like 45 minutes, sometimes I won't. Um, but yeah, I like to cover songs and you know, that was kind of how I started out when I started playing was 4 hour cover gigs, you know, multiple times a week. And so,
Hours.
oh yeah, the I used to play at Henry Clay's. I would start at 9 and play till 1, but
Damn.
then, but then I got to where I would play later than that. You know, bar closed at 2:30, and so sometimes, I mean, it was insane. I could never ever do it again. But
What what's a Springsteen song that you like to cover?
I'm on fire. I do.
Mm.
Used car, Atlantic City, which I do more like the band version. Um, what else by Bruce? Used car. When I'm at home, I like to play Highway Patrolman. You know, I like the Nebraska.
I listen, you're a big fan of his album Nebraska because three of those songs are off that album.
Yeah, I love that album. Yeah.
Yeah, it's my favorite Springsteen album, and it's so much. It was so much different than anything he put out at the time. He's done a couple similar albums since then, particularly Ghost of Tom Jones. But man, that album is just fantastic. It's some of
So
his
good.
best songwriting that he ever did.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's kind of what made me a fan of Springsteen just in general. You know, I had heard the big songs, um, which are, you know, I appreciate even more now. But yeah, Nebraska really sold me on him.
What about Prime? What's a song or two that you covered from him?
Oh man, well, we're about to do a 50-minute set. I'm playing a hometown show in Muhlenberg County, and we're going to do one set of my stuff, one set of Prime. So
Nice.
yeah, I've got a healthy list going. But I always, you know, Paradise, Sweet Revenge, Spanish Pipe Dream, Please Don't Bury Me, Angel from Montgomery, I Just Want to Dance with You, When I Get to Heaven. Uh,
Which was
trying
off
to,
his last album, I think,
what's that?
right? That When I Get to Heaven was off of his final album.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. So we always do that one at the tribute that I put on. We typically close the night with When I Get to Heaven and bring everybody up on stage with kazoos and stuff, and it's fun. But
that's awesome, man. So
there's a
is that
bunch
an
of
annual thing that you do, the Prime Tribute?
yeah at the Burl. It'll be again in December. We haven't announced a date yet, but it'll be at the end of December between Christmas and New Year's.
Is it kind of like different artists uh playing, after each other and then kind of like a all-star jam at the end?
Yeah, essentially, yeah. We
Okay.
typically have like 12 to 15 acts that are on the bill, and we just have all the gear up there, and you know it's a logistical effort, but basically, you know, a band can get up there with their whole band. We got all the equipment. They get up there and play 2 to 3 songs, and then we'll have you know, a solo act get up and do Sam Stone or something. And um, so yeah, I think this year we might do like an acoustic matinee, and then do you know, the full band blowout that night.
We talked about Real Word a while ago. Do you enjoy playing festivals?
I do, yeah. Yeah, I think I probably um, they're always I sound like I'm just complaining a lot, but they can be challenging too, just from a logistical standpoint of you got weather, you've got parking, you've got basically they're and for bigger festivals, they're basically creating a city within a field. You know, it's like you got to go check in one place and then you get your food and water and drinks elsewhere, and then your stage is over here, and it's you got to rush and set up, and so. Um, yeah, if you can do a handful a year, I think that's a nice year though, because it is fun. You know, getting to play to that many people and getting to see other acts is a big perk of that too.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to cover some festivals over the years as part of this gig. And I'm at the point now to where I can walk in and within 10 minutes to see if it's well organized or not.
Yeah,
Have you ever had a chance to either go to or play the Master Musicians festival in Somerset?
Yeah, I've played it a couple times. We played the year that Prime headlined, and then I got to do a songwriter around there a little bit later. But yeah, that's a wonderful
It really
festival.
is. It's one of my favorite ones every year. It's so well organized. The people that put it on are awesome folks, and they really
Yeah,
care about the crowd and particularly the musicians.
yeah, they
Uh,
do it right, man. Everybody should go take a lesson from them and how to, curate a festival.
and to me, it's just the right size of festival. You get into 75,000, 50,000 folks. It's just a sea of bodies, and I'm just getting too old for that nonsense. But master musicians is probably right around 10,000, give or
Yep,
take, and it's just a perfect size. It's in a big open field.
yep.
You don't have to wait line 3 hours just to get a bottle of water and miss half the acts.
Yep. No, it's a perfect size. You hit the nail on the head. It's a great size, expertly run by Tiffany Finley and her crew, and yeah, I
Right.
like it best. Yeah.
So we've just got a couple more minutes here. So as we close, I want you to tell folks where they can get your tour dates, maybe order the album, and I'll put that link in the show notes as well, so to make it super easy on them if they maybe want to buy one of those vinyls like I'm going to do here
Yeah.
in a little while, and before you run out of them. Where can folks find you on the web?
It's GraysonJenkins.com is where everything's kind of housed at, and then I'm on Instagram and Facebook too, more regularly posting there. I have a TikTok. I don't do much with it, but yeah, my website is great. And yeah, you can sign up for email updates too. I try to do a pretty good job of, keeping people informed about shows coming up in their area and all that kind of stuff.
And I'll put that link in the show notes, both on YouTube and Apple and Spotify, so folks can just click on it. And you mentioned TikTok. About a year or so ago, my wife and daughter convinced me that I needed one to help promote this show. I lasted 5 minutes. I said, "No, it's not for me.
It'll
I
blow
can't
your
do
hair
it."
back, man. Yeah. I'll go in spurts where I'll try to work on it, and man, it's just not for me, I don't think.
Anything you want to say in closing before we sign off, Grayson?
No, I just really appreciate you reaching out and making time today and for checking out the new record, man.
Yeah, so once again, this has been Grayson Jenkins. His new album, his fourth album, Country Parables, is out now. You can stream it, you can buy it. I highly recommend you do at least one of those because it's one of my favorite albums of the year so far. Grayson, thank you so much for taking time to come on the show today.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
All right, take care.